Welcome to 519Connect, where the Windsor Police Service connects with members of our community. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Welcome to 519Connect. I'm your host, Constable Jamie Adjetey-Nelson, and today we have a special guest from New Beginnings, Stacey Yannacopoulos.
How are you?
I'm good. I said that right?
You did. Thank you. I'm used to getting that butchered.
I know the feeling. Adjetey-Nelson. So a little bit about Stacey. She's the executive director at New Beginnings. She started in 2008. She worked up through the frontline roles and management positions, and now she's the executive director since 2020. She's been there for over 15 years, primarily in education, mental health, addiction, youth justice sectors, everything. Right. So in her current role, she's responsible for overseeing a wide range of programs, ranging from youth employment, specialized schools, therapeutic counseling, outreach, supervised access, and most recently, which we're going to talk about, a post-secondary student residence.
Yes.
If that's not enough for Stacey, she has her BA in psychology and women's studies, as well as a diploma in addiction counseling, and is currently doing her master's in social work through the University of Windsor Working Professionals program. I can vouch for this. She has a contagious enthusiasm and a passionate belief that youth, children, and families have a potential to thrive when provided with the right support and care. That goes along with me and Windsor Police and you in general. So welcome to our show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I know, finally.
Right?
Every time I see
all
you,
my
I'm
subtle hints.
You know what? It wasn't even your subtle hints. I'm like, talking to my supervisor, Andy. I'm like, we need to get her on. He's like, yeah. And then you'd be like, Jamie. I was like, I swear, I've been talking about it. I'm not lying to you.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. You share an office with Youth Diversion.
We do.
Yeah, we're just talking about that and that collaboration. And when we talk about support, how big is that collaboration or all the collaborations that you have?
You know what? It's great. Having tenants in the building is new for us as of, about 6 months ago now it's been. So we've got a couple of agencies renting space from us and, tried to make sure that they were agencies in alignment with our mission and our programs and the youth we serve. And it's great. I mean, there's a ton of crossover between what we do and what Youth Diversions does. So it's a nice collaboration. It allows us to partner some more and makes it easier for youth to access all of the services that they need in one building, which is great.
Yeah. I feel like, we've had conversations before, since you started working in social work. Have you worked in other settings where, there was a place where everyone came under one roof and was working together?
Not really. We're in the youth hub now, which is great, right? And I think a lot of people are kind of moving towards that model to eliminate barriers for people. That's ultimately what the goal is, right? And you want, especially youth, to not have to tell their story so many times and not have to, talk about their problems as many times. So when you have, a lot of wide-ranging services and professionals under one roof, it makes that more seamless and definitely beneficial. So I think we're starting to see that trend happen more and more, and the Youth Hub has been phenomenal for that. I think you had Kim on the podcast, right? So kind of that vision, just to have as many connections and supports as possible for youth and families, where it's a one-stop shop model, I think is a great vision to have. Yeah.
I don't think New Beginnings wasn't always like that. The 1971, a big year, or the year, the perceptions of New Beginnings, it's evolved, which I think is good.
Absolutely. I mean, we started out, and we're still, known a lot in the community for, young offenders, youth, and, we had a youth jail up until 2 years ago, right? So we ran the open custody, open detention program, the Butch Collins residence upstairs in our facility. So a lot of times, people in the community hear New Beginnings and the connection they make is with, young offenders, youth, youth jail. But we do a lot more than that now. And, still working with youth at risk of, justice involvement or in the justice system. But we've evolved a lot for sure to meet the needs in the community.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know much about New Beginnings until I got on the job, and a lot of the officers that work with us, it's a place where they volunteered, yes. And it was positive things. We hear at risk sometimes, and I look at it as, just like you said earlier, need of support, and that was a place where it was a constant, consistent new beginnings, just that atmosphere of support. I think it's a great program, and to talk about some of the programs you have there that are happening or evolving.
For sure. So we have a ton of things. So I'll try to do a fast rundown for you. So we have 2 locations. The building that you usually will stop at is 1015 Highland. So that houses our supervised access and exchange program. So that's for families that need supervision to either visit with their children or just an exchange where it's, child focused, neutral, very safe space for those, visits and exchanges to happen. And then we have a non-residential attendance center. So that is specialized counseling and schools for youth who are either on probation or youth in the child welfare system. So tons of programs available down there. I think we have like 13 or 14 different, counseling programs ranging from substance use counseling to life skills and anger management, healthy relationships, art therapy, all kinds of stuff. And then we have some classrooms. So, for youth who can't be in community school for whatever reason, whether it's behavioral, whether it's addictions, whether it's mental health, or whatever the reason is, we're just there to help them kind of stabilize and get supports and help, transition them back into community school. We have the expulsion program. So youth who are expelled from school attend school at New Beginnings, and then they obtain, some therapeutic supports while they're there to minimize the risk of, repeat, behaviors when they go back to their home schools. What else do we got going on down there? Well, there's so much, and that's just at our Highland building. We have our Jeanette location, so 1049 Jeanette, and that's where all of our community programs run out of. So those are the fun stuff, the drop-in groups, the activities. We have a team of 5 outreach workers that they're out in the city all the time, hosting events and just connecting with youth out in the city, trying to kind of target like priority neighborhoods and just offer some supports in those areas. We've got a mobile counseling program called Risk Intervention Prevention Program. So can be referred through anyone. You guys refer a lot to that program. So a team of 3 social workers that offer clinical supports for, kind of the most high acuity needs youth. We've got a youth in transition worker. He works with youth aging out of the child welfare system to help them, live independently and successfully and make that transition. We have a youth job connection program. So we, employment opportunities for youth. And then we've got, some fee for service programs. We have a partnership with CAS where it's solely to support youth in the child welfare system obtain employment. And then we have our new post-secondary residence too.
Oh, so let's save that one. Yes. That gets its own moment.
It does.
Yeah.
There's a lot, right? Like we do a lot.
And it's good. What I like about everything that New Beginnings does and you being executive director, you understand that being a youth is not linear.
No.
It's very dynamic and it's changing, and for some they might go through and things are smooth, but those supports kind of bring it to a place where we're trying to be successful, the most successful we can be, and those programs are like, wow. Even though I come and I spend a lot of time, I learned about 10 more that's important, and I like that you've been reaching out. Like I didn't know there were so many levels.
There is, and we've seen such an increase in the need for support for youth after, is it safe to say after the pandemic?
Yes, we're going with positive energy here. I'm calling it after.
So, like these kids have been, in isolation or without services for a couple years, right? Oh. And for a lot of youth and families that had a huge impact, so we had to kind of reassess what we were offering too and make sure that we were, doubling up on supports almost that we were offering to kind of, and I don't think we've seen everything that there is to come of that yet either,
The remnants of the pandemic, and I think a really deep dive into everyone's mental health, from the people we serve to the people who are doing those services as well. Absolutely. It was a full switch, as your program's been evolving and changing. I think the people who come there to work do that as well. Even your volunteers, like the volunteer opportunities with New Beginnings, like how does one get involved?
So we haven't taken volunteers for quite some time, like mostly due to COVID, and it was tough to, know when it was okay to start taking that back on. But we have, recently started opening that back up. We attended like a St. Clair College volunteer fair the other day and got a lot of applications and a lot of, interest in that. So yeah, it's, and it's not just for one type of student or one type, we love like when CYWs or social work students or criminology students, we get law students, we get, there's so many ways that you can support youth. So we're open to anything, and it could be a long-term commitment, or it could be like a one-off, if you just got an idea of a group you want to run or a presentation you think would be beneficial for youth, or, there's so many areas that the support is needed and beneficial. So always open to ideas. And
you know what? I always, I'm in recruiting as well. And I have a lot of people who come, how can I volunteer with the police? And I'm like, don't worry about volunteering with the police. Find something you're passionate about. And from the things that we just talked about, something you're passionate about, something that involves the community, and everything New Beginnings is about community. Why not start with that service there? How can I make my resume? And it's like, your resume is your resume, but we want to see what you're passionate about. And when you're passionate about it, it's easy to show up every day and assist. And you're giving opportunities here for people to shine. Sometimes it gives people a look into what they might like, or they might switch gears.
And we have that quite a bit. We've had a lot of people volunteer who think they're going into policing and then sort of shift and decide like, oh, maybe social work is something I'm more interested in, or maybe, you just want it. So we see that a lot. You think you're so young at that point too, right? And you think you've got this plan laid out that you're going to generally never goes as you plan.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's not linear. And you know that yourself. You've traveled, right? I see some of your hobbies. You like to travel. You like to, just do different things. You're back in school. Your mother. You do it all and balance.
Try.
Yeah. So like
not easy to balance.
No, but it's a growth, right? It's a growth, and when you see it, when you do it yourself, it's just something you bring back. I'll tell you, doing the diversity barbecue, I can't thank you enough for that.
My favorite event.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people know, that program, that support that we got this year, where there was close to 2,000 people at this event, was a benefit of, collaborating with you, understanding the need for the community and being a part of it. Working with Neil, he said, this is the organization that we want to work with. Where does your funding and stuff like that come? Like, how does that work?
So we have ministry funding through MCCSS, so Ministry of Children, Community, Social Services, and then through the Ministry of Training, colleges, universities. So we get different ministry funders. Previously, we had funding through MAG as well, Ministry of Attorney General, but that shifted over this year to MCCSS. So we get, ministry funding, but then we also, have some fee-for-service contracts. We are forever applying for grants. We are, we get donations of things. So it's a collaborative effort to kind of keep things, stabilized and afloat. But, we're fortunate. We have strong ministry support, and, the more that we do, and I think the more innovative we are, and the more we're trying to look, stay ahead of the curve, I think that, helps us in the sense that, when we are applying for grants, we're not trying to duplicate services. We're not trying to replicate things that are being done, because there's a ton of great work happening in our community all the time, right? Like, people want to help people in Windsor. I think we're very fortunate in that sense. So I think we're always trying to look at gaps and look at needs and just try to stay ahead a little bit that way, and always being willing to collaborate, right? Like, I don't ever want it to just be a New Beginnings effort. Like, I love that piece. That was one of the most exciting parts about taking this position to me, was that I had that chance to kind of branch out and network and connect with agencies and people that, we hadn't yet collaborated with. So that's my favorite part, I think.
I think it's great. And, as you talk about reaching out and seeing needs in the community and filling those gaps, let's talk about the post-secondary residency. I remember you telling me about it, and I was just like, wow.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ed Armstrong. I'm the Inspector of Professional Advancement with the Windsor Police Service. With this position, I oversee our training branch, community services, as well as recruitment. As you know, Windsor is one of the most diverse communities in Canada. With that being said, our goal is to ensure that our police service represents our community. If you know anyone from your community that believes in our core values and will be an asset to our organization and serve the community with honor and service, the Windsor Police Service is currently accepting applications for the position of cadet. We encourage you to have them apply. Although patrol and ensuring the safety of our community is our #1 priority, the Windsor Police Service offers different departments that may interest you. To name a few, our Major Crimes Branch, our Forensic Identification Unit, Emergency Services Unit, and our Marine Unit. Which one interests you? So you want to know how to become a cadet? Simply visit our website at windsorpolice.ca under the Career tab, or visit oacpcertificate.ca. I'm sitting at my desk waiting to see your application.
Let's start from where a program like this started and where you thought this is something that we can do.
So we, had the youth custody facility upstairs in our facility. So when that closed, that, opened up a lot of conversations amongst, myself and staff and the board. And, we had a great space up there, but it's a residential space, right? It would have taken a lot to move it from residential, and I didn't want to. I wanted to come up with something that we could, keep that space and update it, but make it something that, we don't currently offer in the community. So started to do, like interviews with community partners. What are gaps that they're seeing? We know housing is a huge crisis in the city, right? But so we had a ton of conversations with different, community partners and agencies. And one of the really cool conversations I had was with the Student Recovery Services at the University of Windsor. Okay. And we had started talking about all the struggles that students in recovery have, and how, the triggers that they face when they're, going into post-secondary school. And, even if you're not struggling, the things that you're exposed to that maybe you're not ready to deal with. And wouldn't it be great if we had this safe space where, students could come and live and be supported, and, and then we started looking, and there's nothing, that we could find in Canada. It's quite common in the US and internationally, that there are sober living residences for post-secondary students, but we couldn't find anything. So then, that's what piques my interest, is it doesn't exist.
Yeah, we're going to be the first.
Let's try. So, I was really, really supportive board. They're very innovative too. And, they just, I think because I was excited, they got excited. I don't know that they were excited in the beginning, but, we just kind of dove in, both feet in, and we did it. And it's up and it's running and it's great, so.
I think it's great I remember when you started, you're like, oh, hey, Jamie, come check this out. I was there with the yippies, and I was like, oh, construction. And then you started painting the picture, and we talk about your enthusiasm. Even here, you can see it. You start talking, and I'm like, okay, I can see this.
Yeah.
I'm going to see this. And you were like, I got a deadline. And I was like, you going to hit it? You're like, oh, yeah. And it came back, I think, maybe 2.5, 3 weeks later, and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And it was real. And when you get close to that, you start feeling it. And, I started putting the information out there, and the community was it seemed like they received it very well.
They did. You know what? And like, thankfully, I had a contracting team that really believed in my vision, because they worked so hard to get it up and running, right? Like, so, because that was a big piece too. We were, you know, a little bit slow kind of starting out and then it was like, but you can do this in a month, right? Like, you got this. Like, what do you mean? So, and then, you know, like trying to market it and explain it for what it really is was a little bit challenging too, because it's not just, you know, safe housing for students. It's not just, you know, sober living. We have tons of supports that we've built in as part of that, you know, fee that they're paying for their housing. So, you know, when they're residing with us, they have access to almost all of our programs and services, and we're connecting them to an outreach worker who can, you know, especially for international students that are coming in like this, you know, there's so much to kind of learn and navigate just about the city and about new customs. And, you know, there's so a lot of like those connections that we're making. They have access to the counseling supports. We have, you know, art groups that we're offering. We have employment support groups that we're doing with them. And so it's just like, you're not just getting housing, you're getting support. I think a lot of people think like, oh, kids are 18 and 19 and they made it into university. So, you know, they're obviously, they're obviously great and they can, you know, thrive on their own. But, you know, like you still need a ton of support. Like, these are still youth. They're still youth. And they're experiencing so much new and different at that stage. So, you know, like the mental health supports, the anxiety and stress that comes with, you know, going to school. There's a lot. I think that, you know, we kind of identified as like, I think this could be really cool. I think this could be a great thing. And
you think back to yourself, like when you were in university, when you started, like you said, at 19, they're like, you made university, you got it all figured out. No,
I don't have anything figured out.
I know. The first time they tell you, hey, you're on academic probation. I'm like, what? Excuse me? And that's a stress. And you're like, you know, it's a competition.
It is.
And you just got to put it in perspective, right? We're so quick to now, and, you know, not knowing what anxiety feels like, not knowing that, you know, you need outlets and things like that. Like, I've done a few of the art.
The painting with the police.
Painting with the police. And what was the other one when we came in and we did the mural, which you still have the mural?
I do.
All right. You know, I'm not very artistic, but on these days, I do put up my painting I have at home, and just even to think like that. And I remember doing that and feeling that sense of community is very important, because, you know, we did it online, but then I see people, hey, I remember you painting with the cop. And I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? Or we're doing the mural. I remember doing the mural with one of the kids, and me and Andy were there, and, you know, I think I forgot my hat. He's like, hey, man, you gonna forget your hat? I was like, oh, yeah, my bad. And you just started connecting with him, and we just started talking, you know, from those little things. And those connections, providing them is important, just to give yourself a different view, especially if you're an international student.
Yes.
You know, so it's not about fitting in, but you feel more comfortable and you move a lot easier.
Yeah. You know what? I think like some of my like interest or passion with the international student like population is because I went away after university, right?
Yeah.
And just like up and left and went to Korea.
Why not?
And it was so scary, right? Like you're on your own. You're literally getting off of a plane in a country that doesn't speak the language. You don't know anyone, you don't know anything, and it's a really scary, nervous feeling. And you know, like you definitely need support. You definitely need to find some sort of connection to make you think like, okay, I can do this.
So
I got this.
Did you have that support? Do you remember having that support?
You know what? There were other students that had graduated and were already there teaching, and it's a nice community of, you know, either Canadian or American, or they were, you know, they're from all over the place, but that they would kind of like meet you at the airport as like a little greeting committee and take you to, you know, kind of orient you to, you know, your new city, your new apartment, the school you would be teaching at, you know, so.
You brought that back here, see?
I did, see?
Yeah, that firsthand
Had
experience.
I not had that, like, no, that's a terrifying feeling, right? Like, so.
Yeah, You said it right there, is bringing your own experience, learning from it, and applying it to what you do. I talk to youth, I talk to adults. That's important. That reflection, taking in what you've done, and sharing it.
Yes.
And I think that's part of community healing as well. You're not alone.
Absolutely. If I didn't have that there, I would have left, right? Like I wouldn't have made it as long as I stayed longer than I had signed up to stay, because I loved it so much, right? So, and I think it did shape a lot of, who I am today, is because of how uncomfortable that was, and, how important it is to immerse yourself in other cultures and experiences and just be vulnerable and learn, like that, it doesn't end with what you know and what you grew up with, that there's so much more to experience. So if I can help another student now come to Canada and have that, that experience and have that welcome, and then maybe shape how they do things later, like that's it.
That's what it's about. I think you need to start like an alumni program. Like I'm telling you, where they are now, people who've, small or large experience with New Beginnings. I think you offer so much to the community, and these programs have. That'd be a cool thing.
It is cool. You know what? We have so many kids. I still call them kids. They're not kids, right? Like come back as adults and just to visit. Or we've got, youth that have long finished what they came to us for, but they'll still reach out at 20, at 25. They'll reach out when they get married, because they want to tell us they were, they reach out when they have children, and they want to bring their babies in to show, the staff that worked with them. And like, it's not just you're done your 8 sessions, you're out the door kind of thing. Like for a lot of the youth we've worked with, they're, long lasting kind of relationships that are built there. And that's, I love that. That's,
Yeah. Well, you offer a foundation, and we talk about anything. Without a foundation, things tend to break. And even if it's just 8 weeks, you built that foundation, and we got to go back every once in a while, whether it's physically or sometimes mentally, and having that time to provide that. I think that's why they're coming back. That's why I come back every time. You guys, you're just a great support for, Windsor Police, and it makes us, what do we need? And when we're out there, we want to give people opportunities. And I always say we're not the ones to create those opportunities, but I know a place where you can go.
I know,
right?
But that's why I love that partnership with you guys so much, is because you see time and time again, youth just sort of let their guard down and open up and see, like, oh, maybe there are good police. Maybe the police are looking out for me. Most of the ones that, come to New Beginnings, they've had a bad experience, or they messed up. And, so to be able to shift that way of thinking and see those like positive relationships built, like that's pretty incredible too. And know that like, if you're in trouble, you can reach out, you can call. There are, so yeah, I love those, like the events that we do, the pizza,
Yes.
So
anything, just to, especially with the pandemic, you're like, what more can we do? I'm like, yeah. And having our full office back at community service, we're like, okay, we hear events, we're like, we want to be there. And, any way we can support, because we know there's many services, and like you said, there's not cross, but to have that connection there is for anyone. I tell anyone out there, if you're doing something, you don't have to do it alone, right? And I always say, if we can't do it, if you can't do it, you're not just saying out the door. No, it's like,
never,
let me
I'll
support.
Find something.
Yeah,
we'll find someone. I will find something. So
yeah. So I would say anyone not looking to start their career, if they want a career where it's rich, it's ingrained in the community, Windsor, Essex, and be like a Shark Tank or something like that. Come and they want to pitch something to you. Yes. Is that something that they can do?
Oh my God, yes. I love that. That's the best, so yeah, anything, I'm open to any ideas. I'm open to any collaborations. It's not, like some of our coolest, projects that we've done have come from somebody else's, vision that they, what do you think? Like, let's try, whatever it is, like an art event, a music event, or, and our staff are phenomenal there. They really are. Like they're dedicated. They love this population. They there's nothing they wouldn't do to support these kids. They're not there just to clock in and clock out and go home. And it's a job, like,
it's
they
not a
give
job
it their
for that.
all every day. It's not that kind of work. And you see it, and the kids feel it, I keep saying kids. They're not kids. They're kids to me.
Yeah, they're your own. Like,
they're like my babies.
Yes. And they are. And that feeling of family, that's sometimes that's what people need in their lives.
Yeah.
It's shown when there's a sense of community. Everyone's able to function better. You think about it in, hunter and gatherers days, everyone traveled together. That person who left out didn't do well. So we don't want that at all levels. At the most struggling of someone's life, or if someone's trying to create opportunity, like you said, come on in, let's do it. If we can make it work, let's make it work.
Make them feel welcome, make them want to come back, make that, just find out what they need. It's, a lot of times they're being sent to us for very specific reasons. So-and-so has to attend 8 sessions of anger management, and, you get them in the door and you talk to them, just talk to them.
Yes.
For, and then you start to see all these other pieces. Well, of course he's angry because he doesn't have this, and he doesn't have, he's not eating breakfast, or there's no, there's so much like deep rooted usually with what's going on with these youth. So it's just, taking the time out to figure that out and helping them even just meet like their basic needs, a lot of times will alleviate a lot of the behavioral issues that you're seeing, right? So
you have that lens, and I imagine as people come into the program and you're seeing different stories and stuff like that, it changes your lens and how you look at things. And people are not their intake paper when they come in, right? Sometimes we see it. It's good to have that, but you want to make them feel comfortable, I always say, and that's why I ask lots of questions when I go. When I'm working in my job. But once things have calmed down, ask a few more questions.
Yeah, there's always more. There's always more to the story. There's always, reasons for why things are happening. And there's usually ways to eliminate those barriers and,
yes,
put the right supports in place if you are willing to take the time and find out what is going on. So
yeah, people don't know about the supports that we have in the city, from whether it's locally or from the provincial or the federal government, that those supports are there, and it's hard, especially stigmas.
Absolutely.
People don't want to seem at risk, and let's change that word, at risk. Just need support.
Yep.
Just people who need support, and even if they are there for a program after, you still need some support. It's not easy. And, people say, oh, back in my day, it's not that people were tougher. I think we talk about more.
We do.
Now.
We do. And I think as scary as social media and, all of that can be for you, I think that helps too, right?
Yeah.
Like they're putting more things out in the open. They're making information more accessible. They're making platforms for youth to talk about things like mental health or, suicide awareness or whatever it may be, right? Like that. They're more comfortable, I think, saying what's going on and asking for help. So it's just making sure we have the right help to offer when they do need it.
Okay. No, that's great. And I feel like there's so much stuff happening behind the scenes, and I feel like I'm gonna have to have you back out here. People don't know you're working with artists in the city. Just providing those things. Like there's more to come, and these programs, like you said, it's from, listening to the community. And that's something we need to do as a police service. And I always say, if we have an, advisory board, I feel like you might need to be on there to, you have your heart and your feet and your roots into this community, because you're Windsorite.
I've had so many fantastic mentors here too that have kind of helped shape some that you've had on your show. Like one of my first jobs was, out of Stag, and, it was Hicks who it really did like shape a lot of how, I learned to interact with youth, because watching him come into that building, it wasn't like John Elliott, executive director, is walking in to say, it was like Pix is coming in, and he knew every kid in that building and knew every family of that kid and made them feel like they were all his kids. And, like things like that, like they shape how you work later, right? Like, because you just saw how effective and how loved those kids felt and how safe they felt in that space. And you're like, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to make kids feel like that one day if I have the opportunity, right? So I've been very fortunate with some of the mentors that I've had, some of the bosses that I've had, so it definitely does. And if I can help shape, one or two people to want to do the same thing and want to, treat people the same way, great, but.
You know what, Stacey, you're doing it. You're living it, and you're providing for the community. And, I think you're going to be celebrated. I guarantee. And it's from, leading by example, leading through programming, and leading through listening. That's something every community needs, every board needs. So in the future, I'm going to continue to collaborate with you. You have so many ideas that, myself and the community service and the Windsor Police would love to partner with. So I appreciate you for coming on the show.
I appreciate you. I love our collaboration. I do, and I think we both kind of see that like the focus right now should be on prevention, right? Not waiting for intervention tactics to come in, but like what can we put in place to support the community, the kids, the youth, the families, that, to give them positive things to hopefully deter from needing intervention, right? So I think we do a good job at that. Together. I really do. I think we
No, we do. It's something we can only we don't know till after we try.
Yeah.
And that's what I think the most important thing is that we're trying. There's people out there trying. Yes. Me, Windsor Police, New Beginnings, Stacey, we're trying, and we want the community to be out there and try.
Please let us know anything you want to try.
Yes. Website.
www.newbeginningswindsor.com. Follow us on social media. Got lots of activities happening.
Yeah.
Halloween parties coming up.
There it is.
Doing Thanksgiving dinner.
See?
Drop in Thanksgiving dinner for anyone.
Yeah.
So
those needs, I always say, the needs the stomach to the mind, and all that
food.
Support. So and like I say, anyone's out there who's looking to be corrections or any of those jobs, you want to volunteer in your community, I think this is a great place. Not saying that this is where you're going to see these people, but it's a way for you to get involved in your community, because we're all in service. Windsor Police, we're in service. It's to help people and work on that prevention, not intervention. I like that. So Stacey, thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much.
All right, we hope to see you again later as as you evolve.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Wherever you are, and we look forward to see you. So this is 519 Connect. You can find us on all your platforms, YouTube, Google, Apple, and thank you for being with us today.